Hujambo Espresso Talk Today community. It's Amma Robin here. Akwaba to the show. That's how you say welcome in the Tree language of Ghana. I'm so glad that you're joining us for this week's special show. And you're probably asking, why is this show so special? And I'm glad that you're asking. But before I answer that question, let me ask you a question. What do Charles Richard Drew, Alexander Miles, and Patricia Bath have in common? They were all inventors, and they were all Black Americans. Charles Richard Drew invented a way to store blood, which led to the first blood bank. So he, in effect, invented blood banks. Alexander Miles invented the automatic elevator door in 1887. And Patricia Bath was an ophthalmologist and laser scientist. She invented a device and technique to remove cataracts and revive patients' eyesight. Amazing. Another thing that they all have in common is that most people don't know about them. We know about Thomas Edison. We know about Alexander Graham Bell. Why? Because they were white inventors. But most of us have not heard about inventors who were Black. And I can tell you that Black people have a long history as inventors. So that is why this show is so special. Because today's show is about Black excellence. We will discuss Black inventors that you might never have heard of. You've heard of their inventions, but you might not have known that they were invented by Black people. It is time to set the story straight, today, right now. The Espresso Talk Today team felt that it was really important to discuss these examples of Black excellence right now. We could have chosen many different fields, but we chose Black inventors. And if you've been listening to the show, you know that we've been focusing on racism in all its different forms and the effects of racism on Black health, wealth, success, and basically every other area of Black life. Racism does permeate every area of living Black in America and around the world. It can be very easy to deny the existence of racism and discount its effects. We live with it so much that it's been said that Black people live with racism like a fish lives in water. Yes, racism is that pervasive in Black lives. It's not an exaggeration. We've also been spending a lot of time discussing how to cope with racial encounters and how to cope with living in an anti-Black environment. We've discussed having a strong cultural identity, connecting with your community, and even engaging in meditation, eating healthy, and discussing your experiences with racism as a way to combat the effects of racism. These can all lessen the effects of racism on your mental and physical health, and we should do these things regularly. They have protective effects only if they are done regularly. Now, why am I bringing this up when we're supposed to be discussing Black inventors? Great question, another great question. Because one way to lessen the effects of racism is by having a strong cultural identity. This means respecting and practicing your culture, learning your history, and, as Professor William Smith said, learning to be unapologetically Black. As I listened to his wise words, I realized that it's been a long time since Espresso Talk Today, discussed the great contributions of Black Americans. I love history, you know that. And I'm amazed at the great things that Black Americans have done despite all the obstacles and hardships and the terrible racism that we've faced. We met obstacles and went around them. We stared in the face of hardships until they surrendered, and we kept on going. It's disturbing how the amazing and incredible stories of Black inventors have not been taught or recognized. Everyone, and I mean everyone, can benefit from these inspirational stories, but they have been suppressed. I know personally that I didn't learn about the great contributions of Black Americans, particularly inventors, in school. Fortunately, my parents knew about them and passed that information on to me, and I'm passing that on to my son. But when I brought up this history in school, and I did, my teachers were not receptive to it, and they mostly treated me like I was making things up. Some were annoyed, but most were dismissive. Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the father of Black history, knew that it was important for Black history to be taught, studied, and recognized as a scholarly pursuit. He knew that Black people could never feel good about themselves if we weren't taught. We didn't know our history and our contributions in law and literature and science, architecture, medicine, athletics, the military, and every other aspect of life and learning. And I do mean every other aspect. We've made real contributions despite the obstacles and racism. So we're not going to let them continue to erase us from history. We earned a place at the table, and that's where we will be. And we won't just be there. We're going to lead and excel. In 1933, Dr. Woodson wrote The Miseducation of the Negro, and he was talking about this very issue, how we've been taught that Black people did not make, contribute, or do anything, of substance in the United States. Dr. Woodson stated that it's time to be re-educated about the truth of our history. So this is my short-ish reason for talking about Black inventors and inventions today, and I'm so happy and very grateful that Marlene and Ben joined me to discuss this aspect of Black history and Black excellence. This is one dynamic way to reduce the impact of interpersonal racism, institutional racism, and especially, and I really hate this one, internalized racism. Remember, we discussed these different types of racism in a different show, and we've been discussing it on Instagram. We'll definitely discuss this more. I feel a special urgency to confront internalized racism. We have to stop this feeling of inferiority towards ourselves and other Black people based on the lies and denials that we've been fed about our history and our skills and our culture and ourselves. So you can see now that this really is a special show, not easy to say. Black inventors have great stories about their journeys as inventors. They have stories about the obstacles that they face, especially Black inventors who had been enslaved. They were denied patents. Their inventions were stolen. They were told that they didn't have the intelligence or skills to invent anything. They were portrayed in racist ways. The white communities worked against them and threatened them with violence for inventing items that the community needed. And these were not just the formerly enslaved people. These were Black inventors who faced obstacles long after slavery ended, even into the 19th and 20th centuries. Now, this stuff continues on. I'm left feeling inspired and uplifted by their stories, and this is definitely an antidote to internalized racism. Okay, I'm excited to get started. I'm really ready to get started with this amazing show about Black American inventors. Let's get started. Asante Sana to Ben and Marlene for their contributions on this show. No more miseducation. Let's learn the truth about Black inventors. Let's get it started, Hans.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Espresso Talk today. My name is Hans, and thank you for joining us. Today's show is about another topic that is not often discussed or learned in school, yet it is part of our daily life. Do you know who invented the traffic signal, or the ironing board, or the pacemaker? These were all inventions by African Americans, and that is the topic of this show: inventions by African Americans. So, grab an espresso and get comfortable for this uncommon episode. Let's listen in.
Hey, Ben. Hey, Marlene.
Hey,
Hey,
how's it
how
going?
you-
Good, thanks. Thanks. And you?
Yeah, doing all right.
Yeah, something I was thinking about was because I was really looking forward to our conversation and I had all these issues I was going to bring up. And then I was thinking, the last few weeks we've discussed some pretty heavy things, heavy topics, and they're important to discuss, about Black history, about, economic empowerment and the stereotypes and, uh, racial battle fatigue, really important issues. But Black history, while it can be very heavy and very depressing sometimes, it also has a lot of wins, a lot of successes. And I think those get forgotten a lot.
That's for sure.
Very true. There's a whole bunch of people who go unrecognized, but we use their products every day.
Yeah, that is so true. And, I know Black History Month is over and all of this, but I feel like I learned a lot this past time. But, you mentioned that there are people who are overlooked. I mean, do you know, can you think of someone?
Oh yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about Black inventors who've been overlooked. My favorite one, more recently, is one. His name is Granville T. Woods. He was around in the mid to late 1800s, and he was an inventor. He started off working for an ironworks company, and then he went to work for a railroad company and became an engineer. And after that, he went on to hold over 60 patents. He was pretty self-taught, and he worked on trains. Um, his most fun, I guess, invention was the roller coaster. And I guess after that, he invented something called the synchronous multiplex railway telegraph, which was a communication system that they could put inside trains in order to communicate between the cars. And then it was extended after that to communicate between different trains altogether. So I think that is super
Wow.
cool. And
It
yeah, he
is.
just used what he had, and he was self-taught. He eventually did go to college to study mechanical and electric engineering, but he had plenty of patents before he even left the house. So,
That's
Wow.
amazing. Wow. He was
It's
so
true.
active, it seems.
oh
Just
yeah.
roller coasters and things on trains. That's a
Mhm.
lot
Mhm.
of different things.
I think he's also noted as the first African American mechanical and electrical engineer after the Civil War as well.
Oh,
Wow. Okay.
wow.
Cool.
Yeah, no, he's a pretty ambitious guy.
Wow. I mean, for someone like, yeah, that's amazing what he accomplished. And we hear about, Thomas Edison and
Yep.
and others, but it's someone who should be that we should be learning about in school. We should have learned about in school. Yeah.
Well,
So,
most definitely, and it's important to note that we still use a lot of his technology today as a framework for building up our framework to build what we have now. Theme parks and music parks, all that should be owed to him.
Yeah.
sure should be.
Feels
Yeah.
that way.
What's his name again?
His name is Granville T. Woods.
Randall T. Woods.
Granville T. Woods.
Mhm.
Well,
Okay.
well, that's a really interesting person from the past. Here's one a little bit more about the present dash future. So her name is Hadia Nicole Green, and she's developing this really interesting new cancer treatment. So instead of actually using chemo, it's a this new procedure isn't invasive at all, and they use lasers and gold nanoparticles. So they place these nanoparticles in the cells and then essentially use something similar to a laser pointer and then kill the cancer.
All
So,
right.
and this is really cool because in like all the trials they've had with rats, there's been a 100% decrease in cancer in all of the rats. Now,
My
Wow.
this
God.
is actually really groundbreaking work, and they've received funding from the FDA. So far, it's just been about $1 million. But to really start doing
Mm-hmm.
tests on people, they need about $30 million. So they're still really trying to work on that. And well,
Why why
yeah.
isn't this everywhere? Why don't more people know about this? And why can't they get $30 million in funding for that?
Well, I think they have received like funding from a lot of other places, but this new organization they've made, it's a complete nonprofit. It's all based on volunteer work, and
Mm-hmm.
it seems like this is just a part of that business. But what is interesting is that it's not being spoken about. Like so far, this looks like a. I'm not a medical person, but it seems fairly promising. And if people don't have to deal with the harsh side effects of chemotherapy, this could be something.
Yeah,
You're
I mean,
talking
you're
about a
dealing
cure
with
for cancer. Yeah.
right. A cure
Yeah.
for cancer. One third of the population either has cancer or has cancer in their immediate family. This seems like
Yeah.
something that should be all over the news to me.
Right.
And I mean, a lot of that did come to it was a very personal issue for her because she watched her aunt and uncle both die of cancer within
Mm.
about a year of one another.
Oh.
So when her aunt died, and keep in mind these people really raised her because her parents died, and so well, yeah, her aunt first got it, and she didn't want to get the chemo because she didn't want to lose her life early on. And then when her uncle got it, they they really did focus on chemotherapy, but they took him off of it. And then she put him on this new treatment, and he lived about 10 years long. Not 10 years, but substantially longer.
Wow. But tell me more about her background. I mean, what is she, a chemist or a, yeah, what is her
Well, yeah,
background?
so she's a medical physicist,
Oh,
and
physicist. Uh-huh.
interestingly enough, she's the 74th physicist who is a person of color in the United States who holds a PhD.
Wow.
74th.
Yeah,
Wow.
of 100. No, not of 100, but of around 100. Yeah.
Hmm.
So she did mention that she didn't exactly have a role model growing up who was a scientist. That wasn't exactly what she was thinking about, but she
Okay.
was always just really driven to learn. And that's what motivated her. Like she was working at NASA. She didn't expect to go into medicine. It just happened that
Oh,
this tragedy happened in her life and she wanted to solve more problems related to it. So I think just people like her learning about them and hearing their stories, it's pretty inspiring for
I
any
re-
learner or person who wants to
definitely.
solve problems.
Yeah. I mean, they say the best inventions happen on accident. So
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of accidents, I mean, that makes me think about, this Garrett Morgan. And
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
he,
Just sorry to interrupt, but I do want to shout out her organization pretty
oh,
quickly.
sure, of course. Uh-huh.
So it is the Aura Lee Smith Foundation, and I believe the website is one moment. It is Aura Lee. That's Aura Lee.org, and you can find her story and look for donations there.
Okay, we'll definitely put it onto the website and onto the Facebook page too.
Yeah,
Yeah, because as Bear and I were talking about, we have to support organizations that are doing this kind of work and that aren't getting the funding and the respect and recognition that they deserve. So
absolutely. Yeah, it's mind-boggling why this isn't spoken of more, why it isn't common knowledge. Like she's been working on this since about 2014 or so, and she has been on the news and on radio shows, but still,
I mean, I have my own theories for why she's not being popularized, but
oh yeah,
I think one of the biggest ones is that the cancer industry, the cancer treatment industry, makes too much money. People don't want to, end it. That's jobs, I mean, thousands of jobs, and down to hundreds of millions of dollars funneled into people's pockets because other people are sick. It's really sick to think about, but I mean, I feel like that's the root of why I haven't heard a thing about this.
yeah, it's a whole industry. I mean, the cancer economy, yeah, could collapse because of what she's doing here, to save lives.
Right.
So
I mean, my goal personally would be to collapse it so that no one
yep,
has to die of cancer, but that's not everybody's goal. So,
that's so true. That's unfortunately. But I got to come back to Garrett Morgan
mhm.
because he's a really, really interesting guy. And He is from the past. His parents were both enslaved. He himself was born just after slavery in Kentucky. And anyway, he invented the well, many things. First, before I get to the major thing, let's see. So he invented the what is this? The self-extinguishing cigarette. Okay,
What?
who
Okay.
can't use that?
Self-extinguishing cigarette.
Yeah, it puts itself out. Yeah.
Oh,
And he
wow.
was saying because people, were sleeping in bed, falling asleep in bed, smoking, and of course,
Mhm.
tragedy would
Set
happen.
yourself on fire. I see.
Huh.
Yeah, and he also created the precursor to the gas mask. But this one, he figured out that in a fire, carbon monoxide fumes uh, hover right around kind of if you're standing up, right around the sides of you, where you'd be standing, in kind of in that range. And so he invented something, and oxygen is actually lower down to the ground. And so he invented something where you could just have a tube that goes from your mouth, that goes down your back, and goes onto the floor where the oxygen is, and you can just breathe through that tube, and get to the oxygen instead of breathing the carbon monoxide fumes.
Wow. So is this something for people like who can't crawl necessarily or
Well, back then they hadn't really realized where the smoke and
mm,
the carbon monoxide and where the oxygen was and all of that. I mean, this was way back in the 1870s. So
right, right.
he was pretty far ahead of his time, and he really actually tried to get this patented with the patent office. They wouldn't grant him one, and he tried to sell it too to was it a fire to fire stations to firemen, and they wouldn't accept it. They wouldn't buy from him because he's black.
Wow.
And so he did what many people did back then: is he got a white partner to pretend like it was his invention, and of course, then they bought it up. You know,
Right.
That's something I really need to think about a bit because it's a fire station. Like now it's just common knowledge, of course they're going to need these things. But they wouldn't even listen to him. They just turned him away immediately.
they turned him away. They didn't want to buy from a black person. Yeah, yeah. This was Ohio, I guess considered a northern state. Yeah, yeah, in Cleveland. Yeah, so they wouldn't. Yeah, they didn't buy from him at all. But he went on because he wouldn't be stopped, and then he actually started. He was what is it? He started a sewing machine repair business, which became hugely successful. And with the money he made from that, he started a black newspaper, which was called, what was that called? Oh, the Cleveland Call. It turned out to be one of the biggest black newspapers in the country. And with that money, he was able to buy a car. First black person in Cleveland to afford a car. He's driving down the street, and back then, right when cars were just coming out, and there were bicycles and horse-drawn carriages and cars and pedestrians all on the street, and um, the traffic signal was not automated; it was manual, and there was only stop and go.
Hmm.
And a huge accident was caused by that. And so he decided, and he created the three light. Um, what did he call it? Yeah, the traffic signal. So the three position. So he created that yellow one in between,
That's remarkable.
and it has saved so many lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Something
thought this guy's pretty interesting.
But he just like one thing after another. It's like he won't be stopped. I love that.
something I'm seeing a
Me too.
pattern between these is a lot of these black inventors don't just invent one thing. They have a few or many patents under their belt. And I wonder what that speaks to, the ingenuity of the black people in general.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, they say that we're not contributing anything, we're creating one thing after the next. And actually he was able to sell his idea to General Electric for $40,000, and which in today's terms is 610,000.
Oh,
And then
wow.
with that, he bought up some land and a building, and he created a huge black country club, and
Oh,
and which is still there. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Do you know what it's called?
No, I don't have the name of it. No, I don't. But
That's such a cool story.
yeah, thanks. I thought so too. I mean, just one thing after the next, these people just won't be stopped, you know?
And they shouldn't be. I mean, the list goes on and on. I know another woman. Her name is Marie Van Brighton Brown. She was more recent. In 1966, she was a nurse and she developed a home security system for her house where she took a camera and she put it through the peephole of her apartment because in New York she lived in Queens and she didn't feel comfortable. And so, in order to make herself feel more secure, she created her own security system that was projected onto a monitor inside of her house. And eventually she went on to add microphones, and eventually there was a button to unlock the door. And then she came up with a button that directly contacted the police as well.
Whoa,
Uh, I know. So it really is just everyday items that we use absent-mindedly that we owe to a lot of Black creators.
I think that's also interesting on a lot of different levels too. I think, the whole criminality that people tend to associate with black people, and then when you see this cool invention about it's literally home security. Like,
Oh, yes.
check yourself. Anyway, I think that's really good.
Yes. And what year was this around, Marlene?
On 1966.
66. Oh, it's a great year.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
interesting.
And I also do have one more person. He's also very ambitious and he made a lot of different products. So firstly, he worked for IBM and he developed these special I forgot exactly what they were called. These little guides for computers,
Okay.
specific electronic controls for IBM computers. He also developed the pacemaker and even
Speaker.
designed the first guided missiles.
Oh,
Hey.
wow. The
That's
first
awesome,
guided missiles. That's a big one.
isn't it? Like,
A
and he
huge one.
just
I
grew up in
mean,
Dallas, Texas. He went to college. His first job was just like he was working in small mechanic stores, and then he goes on to do these amazing things.
right.
What was his name again?
Otis Boykin,
Oh, this
and he patented 26 devices in total. 26.
26. That is amazing. That's
No,
really
it's remarkable to me that even now we're having all of these first within the African American
mm,
community, and it makes me think: are these actually first, or was this information just taken from us? For example, in 2006, Janet Emerson Bashin was the first African American woman to obtain an American software patent in 2006, and that's from the American Bar Association. But that blows my mind, and I can't. I feel like we've been lied to so much that it's just given me this interesting relationship with new information in
Yeah.
general. Um, but that 2006, and she's still a first. I mean, we're having first to this day, even like you said, Ben.
Yep. Yeah, and I think like just look the first black woman vice president. That just happened now. Like all of these things, you would have expected this earlier. And I mean, in European countries, there still aren't really. I don't think there is one black prime minister in Europe, and it's just how it is in air quotes. So,
Mhm.
no, but women are doing better. Women are making a lot of in Europe, making a lot of
yeah,
advance.
they are. Yeah, in general, yeah.
Yeah, certainly
They
more
gave
than
us
are.
Still,
chance, and we just kept asking for more.
but
Yep.
I think in the realm of technology in general, I think like I'm just basing this off of some tech YouTubers I watch,
Uh-huh.
and there's very few black people doing it. I think there's like one, and the rest just aren't really. There don't seem to be many black people engaging with that with the technology at that same technical level, if that makes any sense.
Do you think that's because they don't know about it? They weren't told about it? They were robbed of that information?
I think it's a little kind of like a lack of exposure,
Hmm.
not in the sense like they just don't, of course, will understand it, but it's
Hmm.
more just that. I mean, if you go to a school where they give you a computer, everyone else around you has iPhones, you're naturally just going to be doing more with tech. You're going to be exposed to more problems in this internet landscape rather
Right.
than people who just aren't exposed to those things. So now there's this whole other realm where problems need to be solved. Like internet governance is a real. I'm not going to go into this big tangent, but that's a really big issue,
Mhm.
and a lot of people just aren't exposed to it, and that means they aren't exposed to the problems which can then be solved as well.
Right.
That's a good point.
This is a
I
big
think,
issue with missing information.
but I mean, I do think, people say, yeah, why aren't more black people getting, patents too? And
Yeah.
people have said that, well, we don't know anything about that. And, there aren't many black patent lawyers, but it's actually true. But uh, when I'm thinking about, well, some of these people that we've been talking about were getting patents way back, in 1870 or in, 1920. I think, we know about patents. We know that we need to protect, our inventions and our creations, just like we know about copyright and trademark and all of that too. But I think, they said that the Patent Act was written in a colorblind way. So in a way, because they didn't want to stifle innovation. But what it did was it did keep out people who it just kept certain people out. I mean, certainly
Yeah.
after a lot of the freed enslaved people weren't able to get patents. You weren't able to, you had to go through a patent lawyer, a white lawyer wouldn't take you, that kind of thing. And certainly there's a huge amount of money that's involved too. So, in getting, something patented. So, I mean, I don't think we're not 5 years old, we know about patents, but, you
I
know,
think we do, but they're also not putting those resources in the communities either. I find it very hard to believe that the patent, that was written in a colorblind way.
No,
I mean, what does that even
no,
mean? How do
because
you write something without colorblind, or without the bias of your own color?
well, in a way, writing something, I think, in a colorblind way, especially in a country that is absolutely not colorblind, puts certain people at a disadvantage.
Mhm.
And yeah,
well,
go ahead.
yeah, I think on the point of just color blindness, it's I think it's all in the fine line, fine print there, because it seems to be, I don't know the exact patent laws, but at the time it could have been about all U.S. citizens may make patents. I'm really just guessing here,
Mhm.
but if that's the case, and black people weren't considered citizens until for a long time,
Yeah.
like that citizenship issue was actually really, really big. If that was the case, then technically, legally speaking, black people would be exposed. I mean, uh, they wouldn't have access to patents. They wouldn't be able to use them.
Right.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, the citizenship thing, yeah, that was a huge issue. And well, that's, well, the Patent Act was colorblind. There's still that a whole group of people that were not considered citizens.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And then
Right.
there's the traditions too. There's the contacts certain people made in certain groups,
yeah.
and black people just might not be in those cohorts.
Well, I mean, they're not because of tradition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tradition is
Yep.
keeping everybody except for the white man and his white cousins out of things. Well, now he has a couple. He has a couple lighter skinned brown people in his family. That's okay now, I guess.
Yeah, but it's still, I mean, I still think, yeah, patents, you got to do that because, I mean, that just gives you a good monopoly on it. And we know that Black people have been able to do it. So, I mean, if we were to work together more, maybe it'd be a little bit easier for funding and to get, yeah, the other resources and information that we need to get through this process
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's not an easy process at all.
Well, I was actually reading something about the togetherness. Like you were just saying about Black people working together to achieve these goals and things like that.
Mhm.
And I came across a piece of information that was so interesting, and it said that back when there were slaves and there were slaves who were inventing things,
Yeah.
there were newspaper articles and people who would come out with their slaves who had invented these items and say things like, oh, look, a slave invented this. We don't see any free Black people inventing this. So obviously, freedom for Black people is putting them at a disadvantage because they are not, in the right environment to think for themselves
Wow.
and produce this kind of product. And
Wow.
it's that kind of thinking that's trickled down. And I think it's really not our fault, wholly, that we don't reach out to each other, that we have been divided for years based on where we live, what shade of skin we are, where economically how we're doing, all kinds of
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Level of education. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, job, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true. Wow, it's just interesting how, yeah, the history goes back. I mean, we're talking about, people who've done, really great things, but the history is still is having an impact, today, as to what people can accomplish and how easy it is. Um, I
Yeah.
was reading a statistic somewhere. I said for every 100,000 patents, there are, you know what? I'm going to back up on that. I'll have to look that one up because I don't want to get this one wrong. But I mean, there's a huge disparity. It's like only 1% of Black people own patents, and whereas that's not even close to our what we are in society, about 13 or 14%. And so we know that there is a problem there.
Yeah. And
What else do you think could be a challenge that the Black community or Black Inventors are facing?
well, personally, I think a really big challenge, like I did mention earlier, is just exposure. Because right now, I think a lot of the world's biggest problems are on the internet. A lot of these things are like cybersecurity, just all of these things happening on a different type of level. And if you don't have access to a nice computer, if you don't have the money for that, if you haven't just been in that environment, you may just not have the information. You might just not know that these problems exist. And if you don't know, you can't develop new things to solve them. And so it's just, I think that explains it pretty well, to be honest. But that seems like a big problem, the missing information that's being kept.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do disagree with that because I think that we're really, I mean, we're on YouTube and all
Yeah,
that,
that's
we're
right.
certainly using it all. And I do see, a lot of Black people, being, successful, relatively successful YouTubers. Um, but so I do think, well, yeah, we're exposed to all of this, but there are so many hurdles involved. I mean,
Mhm.
it looks like Steve Jobs or or Bill Gates or I don't know who was it, yeah, others, have it a whole lot easier. And when we try to do that, okay, sure, we want the American dream too. Of course, we're involved in this new economy. We're involved in tech, and all of that, but we're excluded from it. And they said, okay, now we're opening things up now because after, as of last year or the last couple of years, and we want more diversity and inclusion. And now they consider you a diversity hire, or if you're stamped with diversity, well then you're not as competent, you're not as capable, you're kind of the cousin that you don't really want there, but you feel like you got to let them in on some low level.
Yeah.
So I just think that we're more excluded, than unexposed.
Well, do you think we should start making our own circles and having our own private conversations, since we are so excluded?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I really do. And, I think Barry made a good point about that, we have to develop more of an independent economy, rely more on each other, hire each other, get more control over our education, over our media, let people, I mean, things like this too. So many Black people really don't know, especially young Black people don't know about the kind of inventions that or things that they're using today that were invented or perfected or improved by Black people. So once some of the history, it does help.
Yeah. It's very
And
important to know, because then if you know what y'all, we have done, there's no limitations on what you think that you can do.
Yeah.
right.
But I do want to touch on the small thing you did mention about we need to have this more independent economy. And
Mhm.
so, what exactly did you mean by that? Were you kind of focusing on, buying black, focusing on black businesses, or something else?
Yeah, yeah, I am. Yeah, buying black first. I mean, we are what we have $1.3 trillion in spending power, but our dollars circulate for less than an hour in a lot of our own communities. Yeah, supporting Black businesses because they need it. They need that support. They need, they need customers. They need funding. If we had more, Black banks, you know, maybe this woman who's, trying to cure cancer could have some place where she could get a loan or a grant or something,
Yeah.
or more philanthropy. There are, quite a few Black millionaires and several billionaires who are engaged in some philanthropy. And I don't mean to say that they're not, but we have to make sure that our money isn't going to the United Way where it'll be, diluted into a sea of
Nothing.
needs, but going into places that are going to help our community.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
where can I go to learn about these types of things, or find more resources?
These kinds of things like about Black inventors or
Yeah,
about,
black inventors, or resources for black inventors, or
oh,
even we go watch the journey, or follow the journey of black inventors, so I can know how to move my own self.
well, you know what? I did find, I mean, there's actually some really interesting museums. And some are actually online and some are moving, traveling museums. I actually met a
Oh
man
wow.
in Oakland who was doing this traveling museum at what was in the Oakland Coliseum. And yeah, and he was focusing on Black inventors, and he was telling their stories and their journeys, and how they were able to, even people who were, recently freed, enslaved people, were able to get, funding or find benefactors, and yeah, so like there's this blackinventionsmuseum.org, and there's actually a special organization called theblackInventor.com where it's a place where Black inventors can come together. They can find out more information about patents, find ways to protect their work, find funding sources. It could be loans, grants, or investment, and brings people together. So theblackInventor.com, I think that's a really good
Yeah,
resource.
thank you. I'll start there.
Good, and I'll put it onto the website as well, and the Facebook page. And yeah,
And actually, what Black businesses, though? Where are some places I can go to support them, learn more about them? Any of those resources?
Black businesses, you say?
yeah. Will you repeat your question? Something went funny with the Wi-Fi for a minute.
Sure. Yeah, I was asking, are there any things with any resources I can use for Black businesses where I can learn more about them?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, Barry and I did a fantastic show on Black empowerment, Black economic empowerment. And so I'm going to send you to that podcast show because it was really good and
Well
discussed
done.
a
Well
lot of it.
monopolized.
Sorry, it was a great show, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
I
have to
believe it.
say, espressotalktoday.com, you know.
Start here, y'all. Start here.
Start here, right? It starts at home, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, prosperity begins at home.
It
Yeah.
does.
So actually, since we've been talking about some inventors, because you know how much I love quizzes, I think that they're such a great learning tool, and I think you guys know so much already. I actually pulled up a short quiz from this
Uh-oh.
Black Inventions Museum.org
Uh-oh.
site.
You
So
know,
Let's do it.
you say that I know we know a lot, but every time you pull up a quiz, I'm not sure I'm gonna pass it.
I would say there are no right or wrong answers here, but okay, there are. There are. There's both. Okay, who do I start with? Let's see.
You can start with Marlene, I think. I wanna see
Oh
this.
Lord. Oh my God.
Okay. It's a short quiz. Okay, only four questions, and then one that you guys will compete directly. Okay, the first question: which inventor invented the portable pencil sharpener? Was it
Oh, Robin. Oh,
Andrew
there's
Beard?
options. Okay, okay.
Yeah, there are two options.
Okay, okay.
Okay, but I will say that both of them are Black. Okay, Andrew Beard or John Lee Love invented the
I'm
portable pencil sharpener.
I'm gonna say Love, John Lee Love.
And you are correct.
Yay!
Yeah.
I thought I'd heard that somewhere before, so woo, woo.
Congratulations. You're off to a great
Good
start.
start.
Okay, so Ben, all right. Which inventor, black inventor, is credited for inventing the water gun known as the Super Soaker? Was it Alexander Miles or Lonnie Anderson? Sorry, Lonnie Johnson. Alexander Miles or Lonnie Johnson?
It was Miles.
Well, I'm sorry,
Oh man,
that's a wrong answer.
I
No.
was so confident.
Oh no.
Okay, but see, you'll never forget. It's all about learning here. Okay, Marlene, we're back to you.
All
So
right.
1-0 now here. Not that anyone's adding up here. Which inventor, black inventor, was created? What was? Let me back up so I can actually read this right. Which black inventor was credited for the invention of the stop lighting system? Was it Garrett Morgan or George W. Carver?
Hmm. I'm gonna go with
Stop light.
George W. Carver.
Okay.
Oh
Not
no.
only am I hurt, I'm a little bit devastated. That's a wrong answer because this is the guy I talked about.
Okay, no, I thought it was, but I was like, oh no, she said stop light, but like there was a space in between the stop and light, so I thought it was maybe for a different kind of thing. I second guessed myself. I knew that. I knew
No, it was written really funny, but yeah, okay. Well, I'm sorry, but wrong answer, but yes,
it.
Garrett Morgan. Okay, Ben, your chance to catch up here.
Okay.
Which invention was Lewis H. Latimer credited for? Okay, the electric resistor or the process of manufacturing carbons?
The process of manufacturing carbons.
We have a tie. Correct.
Oh,
Let's
Okay.
go.
Now
Okay.
tell me what that is, you know.
No. No. I don't know what that is.
I don't either. No idea. So these are some pretty smart people. Okay. So it's 1-1. Okay. Sudden death. Whoever answers correctly first gets, well, wins or
cracking.
answers first. Let's say. Okay. Wally, Wallace Jr. is credited for which of these yummy cookies?
Oh,
Famous Amos
I
or
already know.
Oreos? Shout it
Oreos.
out.
Oreos.
Famous.
That's right. Famous Amos cookies.
Famous.
Oh,
That's right. Things
that's
are.
cold. That's cold.
That one, he was actually on the news a couple days ago. I think for his cookies, I forgot what they were. I think they were celebrating him for Black History Month and his, expansive how expensive his business has become. So that one, I knew that one firmly.
Well, you got it correct. And I love his cookies too, anyway. So. Well, congratulations, Marlene. Excellent job, Ben. But doesn't this feel good just to, I mean, I know there's other topics are really important, but doesn't it feel good to just learn about the great things Black people have done too?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, especially like you said, after hearing years and years of, Black people are criminals and, we're poor and blah, 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 and we can't do anything good for ourselves or our community. It is really good to hear that we are the silent warriors, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty easy to just look at all of these really hard things that Black people had to, push through, and there's a lot of darkness there.
Yeah.
But also to look at the great things we've done as a people. It's something you can raise your head of a little.
Yeah, and be proud of.
Yeah.
It sure is. It sure is. And it's something that, right along with Thomas Edison and Alexander Graham Bell, we should be learning about Granville T. What was his name?
Granville T. Woods.
Granville T. Woods, and about, this
Otis
woman who's,
Boykin.
yeah, all of them. Otis Boynton,
Boykin.
Boykin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be a name that I have trouble with. It should be, a name that we all know.
Right. Because we all have, it's ridiculous how many things that we don't know about.
Yeah, and I just have to think that it's not by accident.
No.
It's
Right.
all by design.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it
we're the
is.
new architects, so we get to design something new.
That's right,
Very
Ben.
true. Very
That
true.
so on that upbeat note, which I really like, um, I finished my espresso and only a single today, and so maybe we can talk again soon.
Yeah,
For
sounds
sure.
good with me.
Sounds
This
good.
is great. This is really great. I'm gonna go tell my friends all about the stuff that they don't know.
It was real good. Yeah. Take care, y'all. See you around.
Good. You
All right,
too.
see ya.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Espresso Talk today. I hope that you enjoyed this lively discussion with Robin, Ben, and Marlene about Black inventions and the successes as well as the difficulties faced by Black inventors. The three light traffic signal, the lawnmower, the keychain, peanut butter, the security alarm, the gas mask. These items were all inventions by African Americans. Many people are unaware of the vast number of medical, technological, agricultural, and household items conceived and created by African American inventors, even during slavery. Unfortunately, history has a way of whitewashing and forgetting the accomplishments of Black people. It is up to us to educate ourselves and discover the contributions of Black people. Today, Black inventors are still contributing to society, and we can do our part in supporting their work. If you want more information about Black inventors, you can look at the expressotalktoday.com website or go to the blackinventor.org or the africanamericaninventor.org. There is a lot of great information on these websites for the whole family. Now, we have some questions for our audience. Are you familiar with the inventions made by African Americans? What do you think is the biggest problem faced by Black inventors? What can we do to support Black inventors? There is so much more to discuss, so please don't leave us now. We really want you to join this conversation. We are inviting you right now to join us on Facebook at our Espresso Talk Today podcast page or on Twitter at Espresso Talk Today. You can also visit our Espresso Talk Today YouTube channel to watch short educational videos. We are anxiously awaiting your thoughts and opinions. After all, this is the place for thinkers. Well, that's all for this week. Be sure to join us again next week for another uncommon conversation that is full of information, inspiration, and passion. You do not want to miss it. You can listen to our episodes on our website, expressotalktoday.com, or on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Next week, we will definitely have another interesting talk. So be sure to bring your espresso. You might even want a double. See you next time. Ciao.